Welcome to Coming In Hot with Caroline. Thank you for being here today. We're coming in very hot. Yes, she's wearing red.
Woo!
Dominique. You guys, I am so excited. Not only do we have best-selling author, we have a 3-time Emmy award-winning nominee here, but she's also a fellow podcaster on Dear Media, and so excited to be talking to her today. Her podcast is Over 50 and Flourishing, so you know we have a lot to talk about. Dominique, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Caroline. It's so good to be with you. And it's so good to talk about flourishing in this stage of our lives. Don't you feel that we are in the best age and stage so far? And I keep hearing from women, by the way, in their 60s and 70s, that it keeps getting better. So
True.
I'm holding on tight.
Me
It's great.
too. I think women used to believe, I've said it a million times, they thought
Mhm.
the Golden Girls was us. Like Golden Girls were
Right.
our age. And it's crazy now to think back that
Yeah.
you're like, I don't relate to that at all. I feel like women, all of my friends, I feel like they've never looked better, never felt better, and they're
Mhm.
all killing it. And I think it's important for us to get on here on these podcasts and really show them how, why, what is our purpose, how
Mhm.
did we get here? Because I think there are a lot of women sitting at home feeling that it's over for them. And I truly just don't believe that. So, Dominique, will you tell us a little bit about your background? We want to hear about the journalism. We want to hear about the journey. Did you always want to be in TV? You know, what was home like life? Like, give us a little background.
Sure. Well, and before I do, I want to quickly touch on what you said about the Golden Girls. I think also and you worked in this industry, I think we, in a big way, have Hollywood to blame for how women over 50 were portrayed and projected. Back then, they made women even look older. Maybe women did. I don't know. Maybe there has just been this loosening of a stereotype of how we're supposed to look as we age. And there are some interesting undercurrents, I think, online when you see certain women aging a certain way or choosing to age this way or that way. And I think that, in my opinion, the menu has opened up and expanded, and you can choose now so much more of how you want aging to look and feel for you. And I love that. I love the individuality in that. I love the free expression of that. I love that my way may not be your way or her way. But as long as it is aligned with what we see and believe for ourselves, then that's all that matters. So I'm grateful for people like you and platforms like Dear Media to be able to even have these conversations in the first place. So
Agreed.
yay, women in midlife is all I
Yes.
have to say,
Could
you
not
know?
agree
But
more.
yeah, I mean, it's just such an exciting and fun journey. And I just
It's an
don't think it's one
exciting
size
time for
fits
women,
all,
isn't it? I feel like because women are really
period.
dominating in social media. Women do
Yeah.
have
And
bigger platforms.
they do. And women of this age, space, and demographic are having bigger platforms because there's so much that we want and we need to say. There's so much that hasn't been said up until this point. There are so many advancements. I mean, we hear about menopause, perimenopause. You're caring for an aging parent, all of these stories, relationships later in life, how to have a successful long marriage, how to have a new relationship in midlife. These are important conversations that need to be had. They are being had, and I am grateful for that. I'm grateful for the honesty and the transparency and the openness of women all over, from just everyday women to women who have expertise in certain fields, to
Mhm.
just give us information so that we can have wisdom and discernment, and again, make our own choices with how we wish to move forward in this life. So,
It's so true because remember, we only had
mhm,
fairy tales to watch. Like, we did not have
yeah.
older women online kind of telling us the truth. Like, we're really coming on
Mhm,
and bashing all the myths and really telling you for the
yeah.
first time, telling young women what it's really like and what is really coming. Like, no one
Mhm.
warned us, but we're out here kind of warning you. And I think it's an incredible thing.
No, I agree with you. And I love and I encourage all the 20 somethings and 30 somethings that hop on our platforms. I'm like, come on, come in, get a leg up. You can learn something now and you can have a jump start on your health, your relationships,
Yes.
your career, whatever it may be. Learn from women who have journeyed and have been there and are putting it out there. So, and it's not to say you won't make the same mistakes. I mean, obviously, we learn by
Yep.
doing, but I think also we can learn through somebody else's story. And that's why we're all here to share our
Right.
stories. And hopefully they have significance and impact in somebody's life.
Tell us a little bit
Well,
about you and how you got started.
Sure. So I grew up in Houston, Texas. I was that friend. I was the communicator. I was the one who was always doing everybody's hair, makeup, and wardrobe. I was the one listening to everybody's problems. I was the troubleshooter. I was the adult in my family dynamic. I'm an only child. You know, my parents fought a lot like yours did. I hated the arguments. I was just this very independent, hardworking creative at a very, very young age. And I knew I loved to communicate. I knew that. What that was going to look like for me, I wasn't quite sure yet.
Mm.
There was kind of this crazy, surreal moment.
Tell
But
me.
we were at a Michael Jackson concert in Nashville, Tennessee. Her
Okay.
parents were friends with the Gatlin brothers in Knoxville. So we went to stay with the Gatlins, and they took us on the tour bus to go see Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5.
Oh my
And they got
gosh.
us floor seats. And my friend Crystal and I were having the time of our lives. I mean, we're on the floor, we're dancing, we're doing the moonwalk, we're just living life, living large. So after the concert, there's a reporter on the floor and she's roaming around and asking questions. What'd you think of the show? Whatnot. So she came up to the two of us and she asked my friend Crystal, and my friend Crystal was a pistol and she could dance and she was a performer and all of that. And so the microphone went to her and she was like, oh, yeah, it was a great concert and we had a really good time, blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember this, but she says I did it.
What?
And the reporter then comes to me and asks the question. So I apparently grabbed the microphone, went like this,
As we
looked into the
would.
camera and was like, blah, 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 blah. The concert was fabulous. We were dancing. I just, it was like something took over me.
Yeah.
And I handed the mic back and my friend looked at me and she said, I know what you're going to be doing. And I was like, what? It
Wow.
just didn't. She saw it and I guess there it was. And I grew up watching MTV debuted when I was a sophomore in high school. And it was the first time I saw young people as broadcasters. And
Yes.
it was exciting and thrilling. And I thought, I want that. I want that. And so that really kind of wet my whistle, so to speak, just
Yes.
doing that and then seeing it. And I just thought, yes, that speaks to me. I want to be a communicator on television.
And how did you do it? First of all, I was an intern at MTV when The Real World was on, the first one. We have so many. I swear to God, I was there.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel you.
You're all right. You may remember this show. Okay. So this is the whole trajectory. So I know sophomore year high school, what I
Uh-huh.
want to do. I go to college. I'm at the University of Houston. I'm studying broadcast journalism. Time for an internship. I thought I wanted to live, breathe, and do New York. New
Yep.
York was like New York or bust. I even had an I Heart New York bumper sticker on the back
You
of my royal blue
did.
Camaro.
So you were
That's
like,
how
I'm going to
devoted
get
to
there.
New York.
Okay.
I'm going to get there. I'm doing this. So at the time, my parents were living in Westport, Connecticut. And I thought, okay, this is doable. I literally applied to 100 different media outlets in New York, from production houses to networks to cable outlets, you name it. And I had this directory. This is like before the internet. That's how old I am. So I have this directory and I'm literally
Okay.
going through and I'm handwriting all of these letters. And I remember the odds 100 to 10 to 1. And I kid you not, I submitted 100 applications for an internship. I had 10 responses, one bit. And the one that bit was CNN. And do you remember the show Style with Elsa Clench?
Yes.
So that
What?
was the show where, yeah, I interned on Style with Elsa Clench. Yeah.
Stop it. First of all, it says a lot about you, though, as a kid. I mean, to be
Well,
young like that, I'm saying that just shows the perseverance, because I think a lot of kids right
yeah,
now think that jobs fall out
no.
of the sky.
Or
And that,
parents get them for them.
right. But you're like, what?
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, what we used to have to do to get a job, and like the
hmm
work ethic and like the struggle. So you wrote out, so young girl, if you're out there listening,
hmm
literally 100 applications.
100
Oh,
applications, 100. And I knew the old sales rule. My mother worked in sales, 110 to 1. I knew it. And it
wow.
was like spot on scary. So that internship came through. I was so excited. I
How
wound
was
up
it? How was
living
it working?
at
Like,
my parent. Well, it was interesting. So Elsa Clench was an interesting character. I mean, she was a very strong, kind of domineering woman. I did a lot of coffee runs and dry clean runs for certain. I would go through Women's Wear Daily and I would have to photocopy articles from different designers. And she had a huge file system. So I would photocopy all the latest articles. I would have to then put them into the files according to Carolina Herrera or Ralph Lauren or whomever was being written about at the time. Then she would go out and she would conduct these interviews with the fashion designers, and she'd come back with the 3/4 inch tape, pop it in, and then I would have to sit there verbatim, type out word for word a log of the interview. So I
No.
would time code it. Oh, yeah.
Oh
Literally an
gosh.
hour-long interview with a fashion designer. And I'm at a typewriter typing out her Elsa question, Ralph answer, time code, hours upon hours, staple it. That would go into the Ralph Lauren file. And that's how her producers would work
Wow.
on the segments. They would take the logs, they would pick the clips, cut together the footage from the show. It was wild. It was so much grunt work. It was so
I
laborious,
mean, that will
but it
humble
was,
you.
I mean, I was humbled,
Yeah.
leveled,
Yeah.
bottom feeder is
But
what I
I
was
think it's
when I was.
important. Do you feel like it just gave you such strength and like
Oh,
just like such a thick skin? I grew up with the Kelly
yes.
Catrones. So we would be
Oh,
yelled at. They would be tell you to go cry outside. There's no crying in business. There
yes.
was no hand holding. And it's funny now how
No,
different it is. Everyone needs a mental health day. Nobody can
I
somehow get
know.
to work. Everyone is stressed. And I'm like, you have no idea what it's like working with someone literally screaming and cursing at you. But like
Right. And you know
so
what?
builds
I wouldn't
character.
trade it for the world.
Me
Would
too.
you? I wouldn't
No,
trade it for the world.
no.
Character, sharpening, clarity of what you want, what you don't want,
Yep.
the type of people you want to work with, don't want to work with, or even if you don't even get a say, which you don't in those early years, how are you going to work with those types of personalities? Are you going to let them sink you, or are you going to figure out how to navigate it and negotiate
Yes.
it and not let it affect your positive attitude, your demeanor, your work ethic, and how you're going to show up for you that day? There's so much learning and growth that takes place in seasons like that. So
Yep.
I was grateful for it. I got to tell you, the highlight of that internship was at the end being able to go and watch these shows. And I will never forget going to the Ralph Lauren show. And Caroline, this was like back when all the supermodels were walking the
Wow.
runway. Linda Evangelista, Christy Turlington, Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, I was backstage and I was watching Christy Turlington and Naomi, and they were eating like this little itty bitty little pastry, about a quarter size, before the show.
That's it?
And
A
then
tiny
watching the
pastry.
a tiny, tiny, tiny little pastry before the
Okay.
show. And then at the end, everybody's getting out. And I watched like 5 of them, of that group that I mentioned, all kind of hailing a cab, kind of getting in and getting ready for the next show. And it was like watching these angels just sort of
Wow.
floating about. And I had never seen more stunning women in my entire life. And these were like the icons. There have been no other models like them
No.
since. I will never forget it.
Did it give you that like want of like the fashion, like seeing that? Did that just
Yeah.
trigger something in you?
I loved it. Like you, I've always loved fashion. I've always had such an appreciation for good designers that really know and love a woman's body, and we all have our favorites. So I've always loved that. But what it did give me was a different perspective on New York, because I had an outsider's perspective from Houston, the New York fantasy, right?
Yeah.
And now I got to be in there and I got to see the climate and the temperature. And I was interning from January through May. So
Wow.
those January, February months where that 19-degree wind hits you when you round the corner of a building,
Ooh.
that's a reality.
Yep.
Seeing the cost of living and rent and realizing I can't afford to live here and I'd have to get 2 roommates in a maybe 800 square foot apartment and I don't
Right.
know anybody.
Right.
And starting jobs were paying the same salaries as they were in Houston, where the cost of living was better. So it gave me that reality check of, you know what? I got to do New York. I loved it. It was great. Wasn't as great as I thought it would be.
Okay.
And maybe Kansas isn't so bad after all. Do you know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right. So
I
that's
got the
actually
Wizard of
nice.
Oz perspective.
Yeah.
Yes,
You actually got like a taste of it and kind of
I did.
realized, but you were smart in thinking, I'm not going to overspend or put myself in a dangerous
Mhm.
situation where like I can't really afford to be here. You were like, let me be smart. I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
I'm going to save my
Yep.
money. That's really smart. I think a lot of people just they take this plunge, but they don't prepare. And I feel like you were
Mhm.
preparing yourself.
I was, and I couldn't rely on my parents. Their marriage was not in a really good place at that time. I didn't know how much longer they would be in Westport. So I most certainly could not say, oh, well, I'm just going to live with them and take the train in every day because I knew that might not be an option. So I had to be forward thinking in that way.
Right.
And it just made sense for me to come back home, come back to a place that I knew, come back to, I mean, I was just graduating, but I had made contacts with professors who had
Mhm.
contacts in Houston. And it just made sense to start here.
And so what happened? What was your first job? Like, how did it all kick off?
Yeah. So I befriended one of my professors who saw that hustle in me and I would reach out to him and I had just graduated after that internship and I would just say, "Hey, any contacts that you have in the local production market or broadcasting market and all of that, please let me know." I was also working at Marshall Fields at the Lancome counter. And I was doing temp work with a temp agency. So I was, sometimes a receptionist at a law firm downtown or
Okay.
just kind of wherever I got placed. So I was hustling to make some money.
Wow.
And
Yes.
about 3 weeks after being in touch with this professor, he said, Metro Traffic is looking for a traffic reporter. He said, it's a part time weekend position. Would you be interested? I'm like, well, absolutely. It's broadcasting. Of course I'm
Right.
interested. So I went over and here again, just solidifies how important it is to make relationships in friendships, professors, you name it. So the person who was doing the hiring also was a U of H student who also had Dr. Bob Musburger as a professor. So there was that immediate common bond. And we spoke. I had no broadcasting experience. I had done some acting and modeling and voiceover work and commercial work. So I had some on camera experience. And he had me do kind of like a audition where I
Yeah.
took a traffic report and I did a report for him. And I got hired. I got hired to do part-time traffic reporting for KTRH and KLOL in Houston. And then they would start plugging me in during the week to fill in for different traffic reporters
Wow.
who were sick or on vacation. And I just worked my way up until I eventually got my own stations and was a traffic reporter for a while. And then
Wow.
and I mind you, I'm still at the Lancome counter at Marshall Fields because, I love my discount. So I had befriended a gal next to me at the Chanel counter. Out of the blue, she shows up one weekend with a newspaper clipping, and it was an ad from a radio station that I was occasionally doing traffic on. It was Mix 96.5, kind of adult contemporary 70s, 80s, 90s. And it said that they were looking for part-time weekend disc jockeys. And it said women encouraged to apply. So clearly they had a
What?
female shortage.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
Wait,
I'm like, well, wait a
what?
second. I an ad in the paper brought in by my Chanel friend. So I call the number. I'm like, hello. Yeah, it's Dominique. I do your traffic on occasion. And I hear there's this part-time disc jockey position and I'd like to apply. So I do the application, and Caroline, I am like the pest. I call that poor receptionist every day.
No, you
Every
didn't.
day. I want to talk to the program director every day. Did you get my resume? Are you still hiring? Blah, blah. I mean, I think I
For
pestered my
real?
way into that job. I got the job. So I had no DJ experience whatsoever. And now I'm a part time disc jockey on the weekends.
So it
Makes
goes to show you
96.5.
persistence is key.
It's
It really is.
everything.
It's everything.
Every,
Literally, you don't have to have experience, but the hustler
no.
mentality does get you
Yeah.
somewhere.
It does. It does.
Wow.
It can't do all things. It can
Yeah.
open a door, but you've got to show up. You've
Yes.
got to develop the skill set. You have to be willing to be malleable, to be moldable. You have to be willing to say, okay, I don't have expertise. Critique me. Tell me where I can grow. What am I not doing right? What am I doing right? And constantly seek that feedback. I think
Yes.
today, and you brought this up earlier. Everybody's so afraid of getting their feelings hurt. Well, you know what? Do you know how many times I got my feelings hurt because I sucked? I
Yeah.
sucked. I was not a natural. I was not relaxed. And I had to be broken in until I
Right.
was. And it was painful to get there, but I got there. And it took being broken to get there. So I say
Right.
that because I really want to encourage any young person who's listening, please don't make it about your feelings, and you don't need to be validated, and you don't have to be great all the time. You can suck and it's okay
And
and you'll
it's
get
okay.
over
That's what
it.
you learn from, though. It's like you don't learn if you don't
Yes,
ever make mistakes and understand what that process is. And I think that's the importance.
exactly.
It's like, go for
Yeah.
it, take a chance. Confidence is key, hustler
Hmm.
mentality is key, and your work ethic is key. I would take
Yeah.
a hardworking, maybe not a lot of experience, but I can train them and they're willing to work any
Yes.
day over the
Hmm.
know it all. But, like, you know what I mean? You get it.
I totally. Oh, I 100% get you.
Wait, so okay, so now you're a part-time DJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you move your way into television? Because you were obviously meant to be on television, but how did you
Oh,
move your
thank
way
you.
into that?
Well, from being a part-time DJ, I worked my way into being a full-time DJ, and I worked overnights from midnight to 5:30 for about a year, and I was about ready to break. I was exhausted. And then I got promoted to late nights from 6 to 10. So I had a reprieve, which was wonderful. It was while I was on that shift, I got a call from somebody I worked with at Metro Traffic. And he at the time was doing traffic for Channel 2, which was my TV station, their morning show. And at that time, they didn't have an on camera person doing traffic. They just had a map of the city, and you would see these flashing arrows wherever there were like accidents or slowdowns. And he was the voice behind that. And he called me up and he said, Channel 2 is looking to hire a female on camera to do traffic for the morning show. He said, I remembered you saying you wanted to break into television. This could be it. You know traffic. Can I submit you to the news director? Well, I almost fell out of my chair. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I call the news director and I go in for an audition. And they had already been looking at a ton of women who looked the part. They've been casting, doing,
Yeah.
casting calls to different agencies. And so all these really attractive women came in, but they didn't know their traffic. And you had to do it at a chroma key. So there was the green screen behind you, just like how the weather people do weather.
Right.
They would then project the map. And so you had to, and there were monitors to your right and to your left, and you would see yourself standing in front of the traffic map. So you had to look to that monitor, and then you had to get your hand to motion and hit where the arrows were touching, which
Is
takes a
it
little bit
hard?
of practice.
Does
So
it? Is it hard? Because I always wonder with the weather, I don't understand how they do it.
yeah, it's fascinating. It doesn't take long, and it's like muscle memory. You
Okay.
immediately begin to figure it out
Okay.
and to know where to reach. But it takes like a couple of days of sort of feeling it out, making sure your hands are hitting the right spot. So I was a little shaky at first, but clearly, I knew what I was doing. But most importantly, I knew my freeways. I knew the town. I'd grown up in Houston. I'd done traffic. I knew it like the palm of my hand.
Okay.
So I got hired. I literally a week later, I got hired to do traffic for their morning show in a major market, no television experience. Most people in TV have to work your way up to
Yeah.
market sizes like Houston. And I just show up a 24-year-old kid, and you can
Wow.
imagine the knives that I'm pulling out of my back. It's wild.
Was it hard when you got started? Was there a lot of competition with the other ladies?
Yeah. I was the only on camera traffic reporter. So it was a first ever position created. I don't know if I was maybe the second in the country on camera
Really?
female traffic reporter at the time. There was
Wow.
one other woman who was doing it from the helicopter, and they had a camera on her. This was a new position that was created. And yeah, I mean, I caught a lot of heat. I caught a lot of heat
Really?
internally from people who just did not think I was worthy of that position. They had all worked their way up from this market to that market to that market and
Yeah.
finally made their way into Houston. And here I am, fresh out of radio. I wouldn't have had it any other way. I can honestly tell you, radio was the best training ground for me as a television broadcaster because it taught me how not to be bound to a script and to feel comfortable when there is no script, which is traffic. You have no script. You're just having to memorize everything in your head.
You do?
And then
You have
as I
to
would later
memorize it
learn,
all? Dominique,
I
what?
would memorize it. Yeah, I'd have to memorize it because
Oh,
I wasn't
wow.
holding on to paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So it is a very interesting skill set.
Yes, it's completely, completely different. And it again leaned into that radio background of having to take information, process it in your head, and let it come out in a very natural way. So it was ideal training for me, and would become ideal training as I moved into news to be able to handle breaking news coverage. Because again, you're flying by the seat of your pants, you're just getting information as it's coming in, and you're having to string that story together.
Will you tell us about what it's like being in, like, honestly, everyone, of course, we know everyone right now, everyone loves to talk about everything. And the world is a
Yeah.
crazy place. And you watch the news
Mhm.
reporters and you see all the talk about news reporters. How do you feel about it? What was it like having to, did you have to like jump
Mm.
in, travel, go to something? Like, what was it like covering the news, breaking stories? I find it fascinating because
Yeah,
every time I'm watching, I'm like, is
it
this
is.
coming off the top of their head?
Yes, it is. It's absolutely fascinating. I can tell you from my perspective,
Yes.
every newscast is fully produced. So you've got a producer and associate producer along with you, and you're all crafting the copy. So you've got your hands in the copy before you go live, and you've got a teleprompter where everything is literally word for word, verbatim. But breaking news situation, that gets blown out the window. And now you're going into a completely ad lib format, which I loved. I didn't like being bound by a script. I loved just being able to talk. I love those interchanges between the weatherman or woman or the sports guy or woman. I loved the freewheeling.
Yeah.
So when breaking news would happen, the producer's essentially in your ear in an IFB, and you're now starting to get information from them, and it's either coming from the assignment desk, or it's coming from reporters in the field, and or it's coming from live feeds that they're watching. So they're giving you the latest information, and then you also may have up a news conference or whatever, and you're taking notes. So you're just in this frenzy of note
Oh,
taking and getting everything down. And then, as you toss to a reporter, you're having to string everything together, retell the story. You have to remember that the audience, some may have been with you for a while, some may be just joining you. So sometimes you've got to reiterate what's going on. And you're literally building this thing as you go back and forth between reporter or weatherman or whatever the situation is. And it becomes this moving, living, breathing, fluid thing. That to me was the best part of doing news. I loved breaking news coverage. It was a thrill. It was exhausting because it would often last for us in 8-hour stretches. It was a ride. It was a ride.
wow. And were you married at the time? How do you like, how
Yeah,
was
I
it? How, like, where did family come in?
come into
Again,
play.
yes, especially with this
Yeah.
exciting, incredible career.
Yeah. Let's see, I got married when I was 32.
Okay.
So I was doing news, and I mean, dating people, kind of long term relationships
Yep.
off and on. Married at 32. And I didn't have my son until I was 38, which is something you and
Just
I
yeah.
share.
Yep.
I was a late mom, very, very career driven. I wanted to make sure that I was at a point financially, that I was at a place in my career where my schedule was better. I had the best hours. I was doing the noon, 4, and 5. So I would get into work at 10, I'd be home by 6. It was perfect. And I had a
Right.
news gig. Amazing. And so I could balance motherhood and all of that. So yeah, I became a mom at 38. You and I also share this story. I was a very exhausted mom. My poor baby, my boy had colic, and nobody
Oh,
talked about the
no.
realities of motherhood.
Yep.
And there were like 5 of us, 5 women at the station. We were all pregnant at the same time. It was
Wow.
craziness. We all drank the water. I don't know what happened.
That always happens, I feel
Um,
like.
it
Everyone
does. I
gets
mean, it was
pregnant
kind of
together.
surreal.
Yeah.
Everybody was pregnant.
Yeah.
So, all my friends are having babies, and they're like, oh, sleeping and cute and cooing and blah, blah, blah. And my kid is screaming. He's screaming all night. He's
Oh,
miserable. It's just
so hard.
exhausting, exhausting. My mom didn't live nearby. She was in Florida. She came in a week after he was born. What was going to be a 1-week stay turned into a 1-month stay because she saw how absolutely desperate we were.
Right.
And then after that, I mean, it was, my husband was a stay-at-home dad, and I was the sole provider for our family.
What was that
And,
like,
you know,
Dominic? Was that hard at the time?
it was, I would say, a mixed blessing. I was very, very grateful considering how much struggle we were having with our son. Just it was taking him a while to kind of calm and settle and soothe. He didn't start sleeping through the night until he was 1. It took a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
I was grateful that his dad was there. I mean, his dad literally handled the overnight shift from midnight to 6 a.m. He was up with our son. I would pick up at 6 a.m. and take over until I had to go to work. Um, on one hand, I was very, very grateful for the fact that a biological parent was there to care for our child. On the other hand, I was a little, in hindsight, resentful that we didn't get help because it took a toll on the marriage.
Yeah.
The amount of work and exhaustion, lack of sleep, my work, my attentiveness to my son, his father's we were so drained
Yeah.
that it
Yeah.
really, really took a toll on our marriage. And our marriage didn't make it. And we wound up divorcing when my son was 5. So in hindsight, get help. Get
Yeah.
help. You know, don't fall on your sword. Don't feel like you've got to be the only one to do it. They're not going to remember. They're not going to remember the
And they
season's
say it
journey
takes a village
of
for a
their life.
reason. It's like
Absolutely.
this is why they say it.
Absolutely.
And it's like I feel like we've
Yep.
lost the village. And I think that's why
Yeah.
there's so many women struggling because there is no
Mm,
such thing as a village anymore. And now it costs so much money
yeah.
to get help or to ask somebody for help that nobody does it.
Hmm.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway I think from seriously from that story is do not forget it's okay to ask for help before it's too
Right.
late.
Right. Before it's too late, whether
Yeah.
it's family, however you can piece that and put that together,
Yeah.
do it. Do it for yourself, do it for your mental health, do it for your well being. I just felt I'm a reformed control freak. I just felt like I had to do it all. I had to be the provider, I had to be the nurturer or his dad. And we could have afforded the help and we didn't get it. And it's a crying shame because it literally was a crying shame.
We've shamed women into thinking that they can't get help because I know that people will
Mm.
criticize women that have help. Like if you're a stay-at-home mom, but you
Sure.
have a nanny twice a week or whatever just to get out, people will be like, "Oh my
Hmm.
God, you need a nanny? Like you can't even take care of your own kids."
Right.
There's so much shaming that it
Yeah.
makes you feel that you have to do everything, even though it's not natural to do everything and it's not healthy
Hmm.
to do everything. But then you wonder why there's a deterioration in relationships and in marriage because
Right.
there's no help.
Yeah, agreed. I have an expression that I love. Other people's opinions of you are not your business.
Yep.
So get out of that.
Yep.
Just eliminate what other people think, period, and make decisions on what's best for you and your family. Right there.
Yep.
Who cares what anybody thinks? Even a family member, cast that judgment aside. It's irrelevant. They're not living your life. They don't have your child. And let's also acknowledge that every child biologically is different. Some babies are just easier. Some babies just sleep better.
Yep.
Some babies soothe easier. You know, not everybody is given the same thing. And so you have to pivot, shift, and adjust according to what you have and what you've been given. And I think there is no shame in that. And there is no shame in seeking help. And there's no shame. I also went through postpartum depression. That was foreign to me. You
Yeah.
know, I'm a glass half full kind of gal. And all of a sudden I had my son and my hormones bottomed out. And I'm suddenly crying because I'm not seeing my OB-GYN on a regular basis anymore. What the heck is that? Why am I
Right.
crying over that? I can't even explain it. I wasn't me. So I'm here to say, fork in the road, start making decisions that are the best for you and your family, and to heck with what anybody else says about it.
Right, and stop worrying about what anyone else is doing. Like everyone's family is different. It's
Absolutely.
like seriously, even when John like we started working together, everyone's like, "Oh my God, like
Mm,
he's more the stay at home. He's the one who takes care of the kids a little bit more in the sense of pickups and drops offs
yep.
and things like that." And I was like, "Yeah, but
Hmm.
that's what works for us. Like he's happy doing that.
Right.
I'm happy doing this."
Right.
And that's where we asked for
Hmm.
help because at one point I was doing like we were both doing roles that we didn't necessarily love, and there is
Hmm.
so much joy in letting go of what everyone else is
Yes.
thinking and doing and just doing what
Hmm.
makes you happy.
Exactly. 100% agree. And our dynamics are different. What we want out of relationships is different. I pushed too hard. I did too much. I stepped in too much when I should have stepped back and allowed other people to step in. I didn't allow other people to show their gifts. Or I didn't allow other people to not show up. And then I could have seen them for what they really were. Do you know what I'm saying? That's
Yes.
what happens when we overdo it. We don't allow other people to either show up for us or not.
Yes.
And there are really important things to learn both sides of that equation.
And the truth is, we all have different skill sets and it's okay. And like what
Right.
you said, it's like what you just said. I love that line about allowing someone else to show their gifts. And it's like it's
Hmm.
like stay in your lane, do what you got to do. It's okay for people
Right.
to, we're not good at everything. And I think even what
Hmm.
works with us now, our dynamics, is the fact that like John knows what he's good at. I know what I'm good at. And there's
Right.
sometimes he tries to step his toe into mine. And I'm like, no, no, no,
Hmm.
no, no, no. You stay in your lane. Because the truth is, that's what works. That's what works. And if you give each other that grace and that freedom to
Yes.
like really be your best self, like imagine how good it feels when someone's acknowledging you and your gifts. Imagine if you're both being acknowledged, honestly,
Yeah.
especially in a marriage.
Correct. No, I think it's beautiful. It's respectful. It's also wonderful when two people can bring their gifts and talents to the equation and support one another
Yeah.
in business as well as in life. That's just like the icing on the cake. And I'm so glad that you guys have that. I think it's so neat.
But you found love again. I don't want anyone to
I
think you
did.
did not, because you
Oh,
did. This
I
beautiful
did.
woman is not on the market.
Oh,
Gentlemen watching.
no, no. No, it took another journey and I'll move through it quickly, but also it served a really important role too. I mean, I learned a lot of things about myself and the marriage and I had moved. I think I felt a lot of pressure to marry. I felt that clock, that biological clock
Yeah.
ticking. So I probably said yes when I saw some things that probably weren't best for me or
Yeah.
right for me. All of that manifested too in just the difficulty that we had in raising our son, and just an already strained marriage was really, really strained. So
Yeah.
I kind of left that situation with a different perspective. And I literally went from one extreme to another in a person. And I wound up marrying somebody who had 5 children, which was
It's amazing.
a lot to take on. I had my one and I was full on career mode. And I felt I could do it. And I felt like I did it to the best of my abilities. I was all in and I loved dearly and generously and genuinely. And for various reasons that we'll get into, the
Yeah.
marriage didn't make it either. It was a good 10-year stretch.
It's
And
amazing.
there was a lot that was brought to my life. And, there were so many lessons in being a stepmom and just also seeing different. The one perspective I didn't have, which I really appreciated, was, I'd always kind of tossed up the idea of nature and nurture. And if a child was raised by the same thinking and ideology of a parent, well, how will they all be so different? And I finally got a taste of how nature plays a role in a
Wow.
child's temperament, personality, likes, dislikes. Now seeing so many different children raised by, similar parents,
Right.
but so unique, so different, different needs, different approaches. So that was a wonderful perspective. And it just
Yeah.
gave me a different even vision and perspective on my son and how nature played a big role in who he is as well. So there are always good takeaways from every
Always.
situation, even if it doesn't end the way you want it to, even if there's hardship or heartbreak, there's always a positive takeaway. But to your point, and I feel like I don't know, I feel like I've kind of come full circle. And in a way, I have, because the gentleman who came back into my life in August of 2023 was actually somebody I knew from my radio days when I was in my
Wow.
early 20s.
Yeah.
I know, and he was somebody who the station would hire on a contract basis to do. He writes music, so he would produce jingles. He sings, he's an actor, he would do character voices. So they'd bring him on the morning show to do some bits and
Yeah.
do jingles and this and that. So I would see Vic on occasion at the station. And it's like, "Hey, Vic. Hey, Dominique. Hey, how are you?" Chit chat and having fun, blah, blah, blah. He's about 5 years older than me. And it was always fun and very, very playful. We went out to lunch one time around that time and just had a great lunch, but we wound up going our separate ways. I mean, his career took off and
Right.
mine had just started in television. And I mean, we were friends, but I would always hear from him. Like every couple of years, he would be that friend who would check in. And he traveled a lot and would move around, and he got big in the voice acting world and was
Okay.
doing conventions and all of that. So he would like pop in every couple of years, like, "Hey, I'm in Houston. I'm at this convention thinking about you. Hope you're doing great."
It's
And I'd write back,
amazing.
"Hey, it's good to hear from you. I've got a son now. Life is good. Hope you're doing great." And all this time goes by. And then he reaches out in August of 23, and he's back in Houston for a convention. And he said, I'm at this convention, and there's this karaoke contest, and they want me to judge, and they're looking for a local celebrity judge. And he said, I threw out your name, and they were really excited if I could get you. So I was wondering if you'd want to do it. Mind you, I hadn't seen him since I was 24.
That's
So
crazy.
crazy. This was about a month after my mom had passed away. And we were like this. And I just wasn't in that space. You know what I'm saying? I was
Absolutely.
just kind of hunkered down. I was home. I was just surrounded by friends. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. So I replied and I said, as much as I would love to do it, this is where I am in life and this is what's happened. And he replies immediately. He says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can I pray for you? Is there anything I can do? Which I thought was really sweet. And I said, no, but thank you. I think I'm going to have to pass on judging the contest, but maybe another time. And he wrote back and he said, well, if you need a shoulder, if you just want to vent, you want to grab a quick bite, I'm here. I'll be in town through Monday morning.
What a nice
So I
guy.
sat there on that. I know. And I sat there. I know, Caroline, I will never forget this. I was sitting on my couch and I'm like going back and forth with this. What do I do? I mean, here's this old friend who's stayed in touch and here's an opportunity to connect, but this is a really weird time and I'm not doing anything. And I kid you not, it was as if I heard my mother's voice saying to me, honey, get off your tuchus,
Mhm.
get out there, live your life. Don't sit here and cry for me.
Yep.
Go, go, go. So I text him back and I said, you know what? Maybe I will, meet you for dinner. Are you available like, Sunday at 6 o'clock? He said, absolutely. So we met for dinner and it was as if time stood still. He looked exactly the same. We picked up with old radio station people and then sort of filled in the blanks of life and found so many parallels and so many commonalities. And I'm just watching him and I'm watching his kindness and I'm watching how he's treating the waiter and how he's talking to people and how he's listening to me and not talking over me and just receiving everything that I'm saying. And I thought, man, what a genuinely nice man. And the funny thing is that he didn't live in Houston. He was in the Dallas Fort Worth area at the time. And he said, can I stay in touch with you? Can I see you again? I said, yeah, I would like that. And so we started seeing each other like every 2 weeks. He'd
Oh
fly
my
in
goodness.
or
Oh my God, he's so
crazy,
sweet. I love him.
crazy. It's so sweet, so, so sweet. And then I would come up here and I'd fly up here and work back and forth every 2 weeks. And then he's got conventions and this, and I'm doing my work and podcasting and whatnot. So every 2 weeks it's going and it's like building, it's becoming a thing. And it's getting to that point where it's like, what's going to give here?
Right.
Something's going to have to give. And I'm like, well, I've been in Houston my whole life. My whole career's been here. Why should I have to move? If this is going to go anywhere, he's just going
Right.
to have to come here. Yeah, I'm just going to put my stakes in the ground, you know? And I will never forget, it was Thanksgiving and I had been out of the news business now 2 years. And I get this is how God works. Okay. I get this random out of the blue call from my former TV news agent who I haven't heard from in 2 years. He leaves a voicemail on my phone. It's Thanksgiving time. I'm like, voicemail from Kenny? That's odd. We're standing in his kitchen. I play it out loud. Hey, Dominique, it's Kenny. Long time no chat. Hope you're great. Listen, I know you said you didn't want to get back into news, but do you remember Joel Cheatwood, who tried to hire you in Miami at SVN? Well, he's pairing with Dr. Phil, and they're starting this new network, and they are interested in having you host the morning show. But there's one caveat: it's in the Dallas Fort Worth area.
No.
I sat there, I looked at him, I looked at that phone, we looked up, and we were like,
That's so it's just meant to be. I
crazy.
mean, it's just meant to be.
Yes, it was like the only thing I wouldn't have packed up for a guy, or at least I didn't think I was in that place to do that,
Yeah.
especially after the failed marriages. I was really, really, really gun shy. but a career opportunity and to be able to continue to do my podcasting and my YouTube work in
Right.
tandem with that, it kind of seemed like a no-brainer.
That is
So
amazing.
that was Thanksgiving of 23, and by January 24, I was up here.
Oh, okay, and we know how
My
I mean,
gosh.
that is
And
amazing.
we
It
know
just
how
goes
it
to
ended.
but and it goes to show you ladies out there is that when it's meant to be,
Yeah,
it just works and that it doesn't take
it
forever,
does.
and, when the guy is really serious and he really likes you and he's really interested,
Mhm.
he will call, he will show up, he will
Yep.
do just it's just always it's so simple, but it's just a reminder to our young girls, if he doesn't call, he's not
Mm,
interested. Please stop
right.
chasing men. Like, I
Yes.
can't anymore. I honestly. But Dominique, before,
I'm
because
with
I
you.
know we're coming to an end, but I really want to talk a little bit and I want you to give some advice to
Mm,
our amazing listeners. Number one, you were a
mm,
caretaker to your mom. So I really just want to
yep.
ask your tips on that because there's so many of
Mhm,
my followers who are in the same boat I am, whether it's caring for both parents, one parent. I talk
mhm.
about it often. If you could give us a quick tidbit on what your experience was and what your best advice is for those at home taking care of their parents because you've lived it.
Yeah. I think it kind of circles back to what we were talking about as young parents. Get help and give yourself some grace. If the struggle becomes really hard, and it can be expensive too. That's the other thing as well. I mean, my mother was independent and I'm grateful for that. I mean, she was an apartment building away, but I was checking in on her daily, calling her daily, making sure that her needs were met. And she was very, very independent. And I was blessed to have that. I know not everybody has that. So it's work and it requires a lot of patience and tenderness and sometimes stepping back. Sometimes it just grates your emotions. It's hard. It is
It's
hard
really
seeing the
hard.
people who have
Mhm.
raised us, right, and cared for us and have been strong for us at times to see that role reverse and to see you be the caretaker and the strong person and the decision maker. It's not easy and it's easy to snap. So the first thing is just check yourself in the moment, check your emotions. And if you feel like, I'm gonna lose it, pull back, take a breather, pull out for a second so that you can offer grace. My mother's memory was starting to slip toward the end. And I think the worst thing that we can do is point out, no, mom, remember? We have to catch ourselves in that moment too. No, mom, remember you said that.
I've done that.
Problem is
You're
that
right.
they,
I've done that. I
yes,
know. It's awful.
it's hard. It's
So
awful. And the
hard.
problem is they don't remember, or then they'll say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah." And they'll say that just to move past it, but in fact they don't remember. So again, just if you hear the same thing 10 times, just nod as if it's the first time you're hearing it because they don't remember that they've said it to you 10 times before. And if you're having to show them the same thing on the iPhone 20 times, show them again. It's the patience that we have to give them that they gave to us when we were young children and we would as toddlers and young children do the same thing over and over and they would have to be patient with us in teaching us. It's complete role reversal and it's hard because again, we saw them as the caregiver and the decision maker and the wise person and it's just challenging. It calls us into a different space. Get support. There are so many support groups out there, support groups, local support groups, even just talking with a friend who's dealing with the same thing and getting tips from somebody else. There's so many of us that are walking this walk right now that I don't want people to feel isolated and that they're alone because you're not.
What's also true, because two things can be true.
Mm,
I know for me, it's like sometimes my mom wasn't that nurturing. And I think that's what triggers me
mm.
sometimes because sometimes I
Yeah.
feel like you weren't that patient with me and you weren't this nice
Mhm.
with me. But like I'm the one that's going out of my way to be like, why do I have to do it for you? But you never did it for it's funny what
Yeah.
you can go through that mental. And it's like, again, about forgiveness, about moving
Yes.
past it. And there's nothing you can change now. So I catch
No, and
myself
you can't
sometimes,
rewrite your childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a very, very good point. You can't rewrite your childhood. You can't get from them now what wasn't given to you then. So that's where grace and forgiveness comes into play. But I think there's so much healing when you get outside of that selfish perspective and you give anyway. That gives you so much peace in the end, especially when they pass. because you gave, you went above and beyond that call of duty, above and beyond what was given to you. That is Christ-like love. That's what he wants to see in us, and that is what we can offer others. And I think that's where you see the beauty in the
Right.
relationship.
Right. And it's so true. It's being able to stay calm, and you
Yeah.
see it in her, you see that joy when you're not
Mhm.
frustrated with her and you're not,
Right.
it is. It's like a calmness that you have to show that is
Yeah.
very kind of godlike, because you do have to
Mhm.
stay in this very,
Yes.
calm and forgiving state, even though that's not necessarily what you're feeling. So it's just a
Right.
great advice. Just get help, read the books, ask for help. It really
Mhm.
is worth it, without a doubt.
There's so much healing that can take place in this time and even closure. Don't see this as something that it's too much work. I'm going to step away from it. Step into it if need be. I had the beauty of having my mom on my podcast multiple times where we could have conversations and questions and answers. That is a treasure that I will have for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Not everybody has a platform like this or a podcast. You know what? Set up a camera in your living room or dining room table and sit with your mom or your dad and interview them and ask them questions
Oh my
and
God, that
really
makes me
come
want to
up with some
cry.
things.
I
No,
don't know
Caroline, I'm
why.
serious. The power of that and the impact, you will forever have this treasure of hearing them, seeing you touch them, being able to ask these poignant questions that maybe you've never asked before, maybe even sharing about, I felt this way as a child. Were you aware? Or what do you think now? Or what would you have done differently? You may elicit such powerful responses that can
Wow.
offer so much healing in a relationship. So if there is one thing I encourage, it is that.
That's a great idea. That's amazing. And then, so just moving a little bit forward, because I just want everybody to know I know your YouTube channel just exploded with your makeup videos, which I love. I
Mhm.
love the makeup
Oh,
videos. Again, about the
thank you.
book, the podcast. Can you tell us
Mm.
a little bit about everything that you have been doing, and just
Sure.
give everyone a little insight, because I love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I was really fortunate. I started my YouTube channel while I was still a news anchor. So I was blessed that that was able to happen in tandem. So YouTube started for me in 2014 just as a way, honestly, to answer viewers' questions about how I did my eye makeup that day or what shade of lipstick I'm wearing or how I style my hair. And so it started that way, and you know how it goes. You start sharing more and then they are asking for more, and it grows and it grows and it mushrooms and it just becomes this beautiful, fluid, amazing community of just giving and sharing and all of that. So that's been going since 2014.
Wow.
The podcast started a couple of years ago, and it was the opportunity to be able to take that journalistic side of me. I love talking to people. I love asking questions. And so to then bring that to this space to talk to people and further conversations, go a little bit deeper, go into subject matter that I wasn't necessarily touching in the beauty tutorials,
Mhm.
health, wellness, lifestyle, faith, living your best life, caring for aging parents. All of those topics have been covered on Over 50 and Flourishing.
Mhm.
So I love that. Before that, I wrote a book called Life Makeover: Embrace the Bold, Beautiful, and Blessed You.
I love that.
And you and I also have a very, very similar modality. And it's how you talk about you're like, get up, get dressed, feel good, do good, all of that.
Yeah.
My whole modality has been beauty from the outside in, which is flipping the script on beauty from the inside out. Because, like you, I believe that when you invest time and effort into the care of this, in whatever way it looks like, getting up and maybe putting on some makeup or putting on a red lip or styling your hair or trying a new outfit or having that bold courage to maybe cut off your hair, whatever it
Yeah.
may be, seeing yourself differently and investing in yourself that way is like compounding interest. It makes you want to do more. And I believe that those roots start to run deeper, and that when you feel good on the outside, like you say, you do good on the inside. And
Yep.
so for a lot of women, I find this to be a powerful way in, because sometimes doing that inside work, as
Too
we know,
hard.
it's more time consuming,
Yep.
it's harder, you don't see the payoff as quickly. And a
Yep.
lot of women give up. So I'm like, what can we do now to make us feel good now, to
Yep.
empower us now to do good
In the
in this
moment.
world? Well,
Yes.
in the moment,
Yep.
this is what it is. So I've written a lot about that too. It's a common bond that you and I have, and common messaging that we
I
share.
love it. I love it. Dominic,
Mm.
I've loved talking to you. I think your message is incredible. I think it's
Oh,
so important. I think the more of us out
thank you.
here spreading this message, it's so important. And I'm honored to have you
Yes.
on. And I hope
Mm.
everyone comes and follows and sees you. I can't wait to meet you and squeeze you one day in person.
Ah,
Cannot
I am going to
wait.
squeeze your neck.
You're
As
gonna
we
rip my
text and
jewelry.
say, I'm hugging your neck.
But I love you and
I
thank you for
just
being
adore
on.
you.
Thank you for being
Oh, thanks,
on.
Caroline.
Wishing you all the very best always, honestly.
You too.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. We love you. I appreciate you. Please leave a comment, a review, a question, anything. Hit the follow button. We'll be back next week with Coming in Hot, another hot topic.